Hello everyone! Yay!
So welcome to the month of June, depression.
Yes.
As you can see.
We have the month of June depression.
But he's wearing white, so it's all good.
Yes.
Yeah. Right? Because
it's not Labor Day.
No, but we know white is against darkness, depression. And that's why you're sitting in the middle. So, so I'll say welcome, Sam. Thank you for being with us. Would you like to give a little intro of who you are?
I can do as such.
That'd be brilliant.
Yeah, my name's Sam. I work at St. Mike's, and by saying that I might get in trouble. I don't know. But I'm with a program called STAR, and we're developing the first recovery college in Canada to support people who have experienced homelessness. Which also tends to go hand in hand with mental health and addictions issues.
Right.
And myself, I'm a peer support specialist, which means I come from lived experience. So I do cope and have coped with depression and anxiety and ADHD in a very volatile environment growing up, and I've spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to navigate the best way that I can for living the life that I'm living now. In a way that seems to be working.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of our viewers can understand that. Do you think that violence or trauma from a childhood sort of adds to depression, or plays a big part, or do you think depression is just part of your mind, or a disorder? Sort of, it just started.
I'm personally a big supporter of the theories around environmental. But at the same time, I think, I don't think it's one or the other. I don't think we really have this magic bullet that it's just everything can be solved by looking at one specific piece. Mm-hmm. So a lot of the things that go on when we're being developed as a fetus, hormones get transferred through, and so that can really affect the way our body develops and our brain develops. And then the experiences that we have also can kind of affect everything that's going on. Environmental factors and different toxins and pollutants and mold can also have an effect. So I think it's a little bit of all over the place.
Because one of the things that Moshe and I have discussed, because he wanted to understand more about depression, because he realized that perhaps he suffers from some level of depression.
Right.
But he's not had a traumatized childhood.
Yeah, which was very confusing.
And I've come from a very traumatized of sexual abuse perpetrated by my father. So we were trying to understand and perhaps help the viewers understand that there are levels of depression. And is it more nature versus nurture? Is it caused by nature? Is it caused? It's a nurture somewhere. There's like a ping, and they go, "Oh, I'm going to be depressed this year." Yes. So coming from your experiences, what have you observed?
A couple of different things. What I'm really observing this year and very recently is that I'm finding out about many things that I've repressed. And so a lot of the time, holding things back, it's unconsciously, not knowing, can sometimes have an effect. And of course that's for me. That's my experience as I'm really starting to find out now. But again, it's individual. One of the first things they test for, as far as I know, when you look at depression, is thyroid function.
Right.
Because there's a lot of things that can really mimic, right? Allergy testing comes into play as well to really look at what's going on with the body. So it's hard to tell what's happening where without really diving into it and starting to look through.
One of the things that you mentioned last week when we talked about this was that she saw a show. She saw Oprah, and they had a talk about depression, and they were talking about some of the symptoms and some of the experiences that some of the guests were having, and that was like an epiphany for you, because you were saying, "Oh, that's depression. That's depression." So was that, from what you're saying, is that now you're becoming more aware of things?
Yeah.
Is this something that's happened though in the past, where you said, okay, this is depression for me, and then you've been working towards a better space?
Like, when did you realize you had depression? Because I only realized it at 19, but not really, because I saw a show and they were describing symptoms that I connected to. It's like, oh, I have that. I have depression. I have depression. Yeah. Oh my God, I didn't know what that was. Right. So I saw my doctor. So how did that came to be, how did you know that was depression? Or not just sadness?
I didn't know until after going through treatment programs. I had checked myself into the hospital after taking too many pain medications after surgery, and really went through a tough time, and checked into the hospital to stay there for a little while for their inpatient, started going into outpatient. And so that was when I finally got the information. But going back and looking back on my life, I know that there were events that were happening when I was a child. So it wasn't anything that was new. I just didn't understand it.
So you didn't have a way to articulate it, or identify it, or label it?
No.
So what was some of the symptoms that you could share that people could say, yeah, that sounds something like what I have?
So the general indicators that something is worth looking at, and I think this is for health in general, is increase or decrease in appetite, increase or decrease in sleeping would be a big thing. Isolation tends to be really big for a lot of people, really disconnecting. Changes in mood, maybe there's increased irritability, really big decreases in motivation, a lot of sorrow, and I think sometimes people think about, oh, I'm feeling sad, and because I'm feeling sad, I'm depressed.
Or even to say, and sorry to interrupt you, that some
Yeah.
people might say they're sad, so it's not really a big deal.
Right.
Right? And that could get you into a deeper, darker space.
Yeah, definitely, and it's not something to be taken lightly. That's 100%. It's a great point. At the same time, it's different than, this. I don't know, when I figured out. I think sadness comes with a certain, now knowing a lightness to it in comparison to depression. Depression, for me, comes with this very big weight and an inability to really function in my normal daily life. And something that doesn't transition very, very quickly. It's something that lasts for at least a few weeks. Yeah.
And I know for me, when I have depression, I'm critical of myself. First of all, it's only recently that I've actually labeled it as depression. It was,
Right.
And it's something that I'm learning to accept. But when I'm experiencing those lows that you're talking about, of not being active or engaged in life, I'm really critical of myself, and it's as if I don't realize that I have this. It's only now that Gina's helped me accept it that I'm like, if I have an off day, I know I'm more forgiving. So do you find yourself sometimes in that mind trap where you sabotage yourself, or you're critical of yourself because you're not doing the things that you normally would do?
Yes, 100%. That even happened, and again, that will happen while I'm experiencing a depressive episode.
Yeah.
That will happen outside of it. So today, I had a couple of things go on, and I was working through a couple of things, and after all the things that happened, I started looking at myself and criticizing myself and thinking about, what did I do wrong? This was all me. It all comes down on me. And I think that mindset may really amplify during a depressive episode. It may also be something that contributes. Right? Starting looking at things and
Right.
analyzing and really saying, this is all my fault. I'm to blame.
Right.
There's all this shame and this guilt. And that can really amplify, because I think it's very easy to get caught up in thinking about that and then building on it and
Yes.
building on it and building
Yeah.
on it, and that becoming debilitating.
What are some of your ways that you've sort of adopted that sort of breaks that cycle just a little bit? Because I often said, last week we had a conversation where, I don't want, Moshe was saying, I don't like when people say think positively.
Yeah.
And from my space, thinking positively gives me something to hold on until, because I remind myself that my depression is a moment in time, and like happiness and sadness, it will come, pass, and move on. So I need something to sort of latch on mindfully and say, okay, this is who I really am, and in this moment, this will pass as well. And it helps me break some of the cycles so that it's not taking over. Is
Right.
it something that you have adopted that? Because
Yeah.
from your professional space, being a peer counselor, you must have come many across of education, what can you recommend, or the stuff that you've done that really made such a difference?
Yeah, think positive. The thing I like about the concepts of thinking positive,
Yes.
and it's phenomenal. It really does help. But even studies show time and time again that there's a change in thinking patterns, and it's almost like there's this fog, this veil in
Wow.
perception, and so it's really difficult. It can be very difficult for people to find something positive to think about, and I definitely experienced that.
Yeah.
I've found many times that it's hard to find that positive, and so I think the aspect of it is, just thinking positive may even turn into, oh, I still feel like crap.
Yes.
I'm not thinking positive enough.
Yes.
I'm doing things wrong.
Yes.
There's nothing I can do.
100%.
And really coming down on yourself again.
Yes.
And so for some people, it's not something that's an option.
Yes.
And for some people, it is, and it works great. For me, one of the really big things is mindfulness. Really being able to connect with my breath, to be able to come back to where I am. And so instead of thinking about all these things that could have gone wrong and all these things that did go wrong and getting caught up in the past and caught up in the future and thinking, being able to stop and look at where am I and what's going on right now. Well, right now I'm sitting and I'm beside two fantastic people, and there's all these wonderful people in front that I can't see, but I'm sure you're all beautiful. But that's one of the things that's just going on right now.
That's
and
awesome.
So there's no need to really get caught up in things that haven't happened and things that are gone.
Very Zen-like.
It is.
And one thing that intrigued me about what you were saying is that we can get off that trail quite quickly, and if we're not mindful of it, we can be off the beaten track, so to speak. And it takes that much work. I mean, for me at least, it takes so much more work to get back on. And it's catching it early on. Yeah. That's the quote-unquote secret of the success for meeting the challenges of depression.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because part of my mantra with positive thinking is I have reminders of who I am before this moment hits me. And so what when I say think positive is I remind myself that before this has happened, this was who I was.
Yeah.
And I have a saying, right, guys? This is my depression.
Yes.
This is me.
I love it. Yeah.
It's fantastic.
So it does not
Yeah.
define my space at that moment.
I think that's really important, is that depression is not a person. So even when we get into language, someone says, I'm depressed. Well, all of a sudden, this is who I am. I am depression, and that's all there is to me.
Unless because you're an artist. Maybe it's a different story.
Right.
I don't know.
It motivates me to work.
I wear black because I'm not really depressed. I'm artistic. No.
Yeah.
I mean, we're making light about a very important thing, because the one thing I also say about depression is we need some humor sometimes. It uplifts us, right? Yeah. So as you were saying.
Yeah. And it's difficult to see that. It's difficult to see that. I think with emotions, that's another big part. The biggest thing for me, when all said and done, was when I finally found out what was going on. I decided I wanted to know everything I could.
Oh, wow.
And so I studied and I researched and I read when I was capable. And there were times where I couldn't. It's working with where I am at that time. And whatever I can do is my best. Sometimes that's laying in bed, and that's all that I can do at that moment in time, because that's what I need. I need that recuperative time, or I'm just not feeling it. And that's something to watch out for as well. Sometimes that turns into, okay, well, I'm laying in bed for 3 weeks. I haven't showered, I haven't eaten. Things are a little bit extensive for being able to function, and so it's really consumed by those feelings and those experiences.
And I think what is cool, what you just said is really being kind and compassionate to yourself in those moments. And that is the key, really, to try to manage those times, is just be kind if you can. And hopefully, if we were saying, if you need to stay in bed in pajamas, think one thing at a time. Maybe get up,
and
maybe
then
brush your teeth, or have a cup of coffee. Go back to bed after. We don't care. But manage it in a way that's kind and comfortable for you at that moment. Because when I'm in my space, I'm staying in my pajamas. right?
So
What are you doing when you're depressed?
I stay at home and
You get in your pajamas.
that's pretty much it. I don't want to see anybody.
Yeah.
So
But thank you.
thank you. Yeah, we're gonna continue this conversation moving forward.
After this commercial break?
After this commercial break, exactly.
I think